There is a photograph taken in 1861 of a woman with pale eyes and cropped hair nursing an infant daughter. The name she was born with was Cynthia Ann Parker. She does not smile. By the time this picture was made, she had lived nearly 25 years as a Comanche woman and had just been torn back into a world she no longer recognized as her own. Her story does not begin with that photograph. It begins on a spring morning in 1836 at a stockade in central Texas when she was 9 years old, and a war party rose out of the tall grass carrying a white flag. What happened at Fort Parker that morning would kill 5 men, carry off 5 captives, and light a fuse that burned for 40 years. This is where the long war on the Texas frontier, the one that ended with her son, actually began. I'm Lamar, and this is the Western Ledger, where we hold Texas history to the record and tell you plainly where the record runs out. Today, the Fort Parker Massacre, what we know, what we don't, and why a 9-year-old girl became the thread that runs through the entire Comanche War. The Parkers were not ordinary settlers. Elder John Parker was a predestinarian Baptist patriarch, a hard-shell frontier preacher who brought his sprawling clan from Illinois to the Texas frontier in 1833. By 1834, they had raised a stockade on the headwaters of the Navasota River in what is today Limestone County near Groesbeck. They called it Fort Parker. It was a real fort, split log walls, blockhouses at the corners, a heavy timber gate, built for exactly the danger that was coming. And yet, on the morning it came, that gate stood open. The Parkers believed they were safe. Elder John had made his peace with the local bands, and the family had begun to relax, building cabins outside the walls, working fields at a distance, sleeping easy. His son James was less certain. He understood something many of his neighbors did not, that the Comanche were never one tribe with one treaty, but many independent bands. A promise made to one of them meant nothing to another. On the frontier, that misunderstanding got people killed. On the morning of May 19, 1836, barely 6 weeks after Texas won its independence at San Jacinto, most of the men were already out in the fields. Rachel Plummer, 17 years old and pregnant with her second child, was inside the walls with her toddler son. Years later, in the first captivity narrative ever published in the Republic of Texas, she described the moment the grass came alive. One minute, the fields in front of the fort were clear, and the next moment, more Indians than I dreamed possible were in front of the fort. How many warriors came that day we do not really know. Accounts range from about 100 to as many as 600. Who they were is contested too. Most sources say Comanche, but others name Kiowa, Caddo, Wichita, and Keechai riding together. And here is the hard part. We do not have a single word of testimony from the other side of that wall. No Comanche account of Fort Parker survives. When a historian tells you exactly what the raiders intended that morning, they are reconstructing, not quoting. We will say so every time. One rider approached the gate carrying a white flag. Benjamin Parker walked out to meet it, to parley, to buy time for the women and children to slip out the back. He did not come back. The flag was a feint. In minutes, the fort was overrun. Before it was over, 5 men lay dead. Silas Parker, the aged elder John Parker, Benjamin Parker, and Samuel and Robert Frost. Whether we call what followed a battle or a massacre is not just a matter of tone. It is a question this channel takes seriously, and we will come back to it. When the war party rode north, it carried 5 captives: Elizabeth Kellogg, a grown woman; Rachel Plummer and her 2-year-old son, James Pratt; and 2 of Silas Parker's children, 9-year-old Cynthia Ann and her younger brother, John Richard. They were separated almost at once, scattered among different bands. Elizabeth Kellogg was ransomed within months. John Richard and little James Pratt were bought back years later. Rachel endured 21 months before her father's relentless searching finally reached her through Comanche traders near Santa Fe. Her narrative does not spare the reader, and we will not pretend it does. She lost an infant, born in captivity, to a cruelty she could barely bring herself to set down on paper. We are not going to reenact it. Some things are stated and then left. What she left us instead is one of the rawest documents of the early frontier, unflinching about her own suffering and, remarkably, unflinching about the Comanche as a people, their customs, their reasoning, their world. It is grief and ethnography in the same breath. For a captive of 2 years, that is an astonishing act of clear sight. But one captive was never ransomed. One captive, in the end, simply stayed. Cynthia Ann Parker grew up Comanche. She took a new name, married a chief named Peta Nakona, and bore his children. By every account that survives, she did not want to be found. She was found anyway. In December of 1860, 24 years after the raid, Texas Rangers under Sullivan Ross struck a Comanche camp on the Pease River. History long called it a battle. Some historians now argue it was closer to a raid on a hunting party, and the dispute over that word, over how far the sources can be trusted, is exactly the kind of question this channel refuses to paper over. The name you give an event is an argument about it. Among the captured was a woman with blue eyes, weeping. She had a daughter at her breast and 2 sons still out on the plains. One of those sons was named Quanah. Cynthia Ann never adjusted to being rescued. She tried to return to the Comanche more than once. She died within roughly a decade, grieving for the life that had been taken from her a second time. But her son, Quanah Parker, rose to become the last free Comanche chief. And when he finally led his people onto the reservation in 1875, the war that started at a little stockade in Limestone County finally ended. 40 years, one family, one thread. That thread, Cynthia Ann Parker, runs straight through the events we cover next on this channel. The Council House fight, the Great Raid of 1840, Plum Creek, and the long Red River War that finally ended it. Fort Parker is where the story starts. I'm Lamar. Thanks for keeping the ledger with me. Hope to see you again soon.